Hello everyone, this is Dawn, and this is going to be one of the messages pertaining to galactic energies that are at play. I'm recording this on July 29th, and I'm going to begin by telling you about the video I recorded yesterday and some interesting things that happened. This is basically a redo of that. The overall message of this is to introduce the Star Reconfiguration team, which is what they are calling themselves. Star being pulled from the acronym that I often use, which is Star equals your soul's truth and radiance. But the Reconfiguration team is generally what these five beings that are sort of like a council, non-council, that have been, sharing these messages with me want to be called. And this pertains to the next 3 years, this passage. They haven't given it a name necessarily. But this video in particular, I'm going to introduce you to kind of how they introduce themselves, because I was like, hey, I got to know what to call you. It's really frustrating because when I'm taking notes and stuff and when I'm trying to share it, it's clearly not a council. It's definitely not the Galactic Council, but it's it's just as emissaries and the Reconfiguration team. So I will introduce that to those of you, and this will be a very basic introduction. And then the primary message here, however, is about, in this next 3-year period, how it is really about the restoration of protection, and particularly doing that through love leadership that can only occur through the healing of masculine power. So that's the topic. I know it's a mouthful. But first I wanted to share about the video I recorded. So late last night, I needed to do it earlier in the day yesterday, but I just had a difficult day and it wasn't happening. And so I finally had the energy, very late in the evening last night, and I came in here and I recorded the video. And it was, when I stopped the video, naturally, it was 44 minutes and 44 seconds. But what happened during the recording of the video was quite interesting. And I knew pretty much right away I needed to not share it direct. I needed to sit on it. And within an hour, I woke up from another dream, and I knew I was going to need to not share the video I recorded, because I went very deep, and I probably said a few things that were a little too specific. But the thing that happened that was super powerful was, I was in here, I had a lamp on, but it was otherwise, dark. It was late at night. And I got to the part at the end of the video where I was talking about what actually happened. Like, how did we lose this? What actually happened? And I guess I went a little off script in terms of, and I talked about specifically some of the patterns that, and I'll touch on this in this video, but in a different way. Some of the patterns of disruption and the deliberate attempts to derail humanity by compromising the sacred masculine within each of us, but specifically within masculine males who hold primarily the masculine polarity. And at the point where I got through sharing, just my own observations, and then a thread of the galactic message, which I will share here in a different way, there was the strangest thing that happened. First, the lights flickered on my lamp, and at my lamp and across the hall that I had the light on. And then I had downloaded this, I have Audible, and had downloaded an audiobook, a fiction audiobook based on some random recommendation that I heard. I don't even know what this book is about, but it's called The Dark Window. And on the video, it was like really clear, like the lights flicker, and then my computer, which I am not touching, opens Audible and starts playing and speaks the word, The Dark Window, and pops up the cover of the book, which again, the book is probably, I don't even know what it's about. It's probably a great book. But regardless, the point was, what I was saying right when that happened was what I believe is a key to all of this. And it is a deliberate interference. And I was talking about where that interference might be coming from. And to me, it's two things. It's not either or, it's both and. So in other words, it's both on planet and off planet. So I wanted to share that interesting note, and I will not be sharing the details. But without further ado, let's meet the Reconfiguration team. So I'm going to put my glasses on, and I am going to read a bit just because I don't want to go off script this time. So the Reconfiguration team, as they're now calling themselves, is composed of members of star lineages. There are 5 representatives, and I suspected this early on because of the flavor of some of the energies that I resonate with strongly. And so it is, each member represents a different star lineage and a body of, not just that star lineage though, but a body of wisdom that humanity will need in this next 3-year period. And so these particular 5 star lineages are present in a stronger way right now in this 3-year period. This is not a complete list of star lineages by any means. It's just the team that I'm working with. And they wanted to give us a little more information about them. And their presence, whether it remains distant or whether they, appear among us, I don't know, come down in ships, I have no idea. But that their presence, regardless, and I do believe it's connected to our inner worlds, their presence will help us to create and hold a shield of protection. And that's the other big theme of this video, is protection. Not protection as a fear-based kind of protection, but protection for the dream that we are stepping into, New Earth. And they are going to help us do whatever is necessary in this transition. And it's a transition that Gaia herself, the Earth, is going through. It's a transition that each one of us individually is going through. It is a reconfiguration of our society, a passage to a new society is what I've called that before. And it is stepping into a new era, rich in love, and a new experience of what it means to be human. So they're going to help create and hold that shield of protection. And those who, when this reclamation of the sacred masculine occurs to the degree that it needs to, it is occurring, has been occurring, but then there will be those among the human race that step forward to carry that and lead us forward. And each one of us, each community, society, as I mentioned, the earth, humanity itself, all of that's going to be transformed. We're all going to look different on the other side. I'm not sure if it will be 3 years from now or if that will be a longer trajectory, but the 3-year period is really anchoring that in. So they have referred to this as an adjustment period and a adjustment, refinement, and then reconfiguration. I'm assuming that reconfiguration will happen societally, but I don't have a lot of details on that yet. So, but we're making decisions about how are we going to engage with technology and AI? How are we going to interface with our own government and political situation in our own countries? And then how are those going to come together or not? How are we going to, what is going to happen with wars and the economic changes and any upheaval there, and also earth changes, weather, those sorts of things. So this reconfiguration team, they bring unique flavors of wisdom that are going to be key for us in this next phase. And the way that they showed me these individual contributions was by way of connecting me to parts of me or what I've tried to either embody intentionally or share, in some cases publicly, and in other cases just through how I move through my life. they kind of showed me through by who they were by connecting me to aspects of of that who I am and what I've shared. So I'm going to use the phrases that they gave me just to be fully transparent, so that you can that may connect for some of you out there. So I'll share. In other words, I'll share those key phrases that they connected. It was energetic, and so it's a little difficult to convey through words, but they connected me to that aspect energetically within me, and then sort of unlocked the wisdom gifts that they were bringing, and then I took notes on that. So without further ado, and these I have listed them in the order of my personal familiarity with the energies. That's the only reason they're in this order, but they are 5 equal and diverse, bringing the diverse threads of wisdom together, but they are bringing it together in a configuration where these are equally honored and realized. I don't know how it's all going to play out. Like, is it all going to happen at once, or is it sequential? Anyway, more on that later. So let's go ahead and meet the Reconfiguration team. So the first member is Sirian, Sirian, that is from Sirius. And the phrase for me was the law of love. I use that phrase a lot. I use it in my conversation. I use it in writing, and I'm certain I've made videos referring to that, the law of love. Very close to me, closely associated with the law of one, and some of the other, universal laws that are talked about. But anyway, Sirian is the first representative, and law of love was the catchphrase, and the gifts, the wisdom gifts, are all about sacred technology, about divine order, justice, stability, and structure. And so I think of these as very much of a guardian, very much as a protector of higher law and wisdom. So that is the Sirian representative. The next representative is from Arcturian. And the catchphrase for me was structure of stability, which is, so structure and stability, I personally have a love, I don't want to call it hate, but I have, it's a challenge for me sometimes, but I love it. And I'm very good at it in certain things that I do. For example, I used to edit and publish books for people, and I was very good at the developmental editing and structuring of information. And I'm very good at seeing the structure of stability. And I talk about sustainable systems. So that's why they gave me that catchphrase, structure of stability. It immediately connected for me. But what Arcturians bring is actually much more than just stability. What they bring is advanced healing techniques. They are masters of energy. They deal with frequency, with systems and technology and sacred geometry. And again, the structure of systems and sustainability and things that will support us and provide the structure needed as we move through these next 3 years. So that is Arcturian. The third representative is Lyran or Lyran. I'm never sure how to pronounce that correctly. The key word catchphrase they gave me was ancient awakening and sacred strength. Ancient awakening connects to me to a lot of my paintings, soul of place paintings in particular that I do. It's really what it's about for me. I don't necessarily use that phrase a lot in what I do out externally, but it was interesting when they gave me that catchphrase, and I have a little bit of connection to Lyran, but it's definitely more distance. The first two, Sirian and Arcturian, I know well. The Lyran energy, I feel like it's just coming online for me, and it's very ancient. For me, it's connected somehow with Lemuria, and that I just got chills. Like, that is so strong for me recently, which is very interesting because up until now, any of the ancient civilizations that I've been, there was a lot of Atlantean kind of story and a lot of other things. But I think that given where I am in my life and that I've cleared certain things, but I also think this is true collectively, that we're drawing back to the very ancient wisdom that has been lost. So that is Lyran, Ancient Awakening, Sacred Strength, and they really are here to teach us about our lineage and about how we, again, it's that reclamation, reclaiming independence, leadership, strong boundaries, holding our energy, and then leading with creativity. And there's sort of a trailblazer kind of energy too, and almost like a fierceness in terms of like a fierce independence and leadership. And so I have a growing affection for Lyrans. And the fourth energy, though, was Andromedan. And I've just like the slightest connection personally to this, but I did have a relative who embodied a lot of this energy, and I've known a few people in my life who embody this energy, and I feel like I have the streak of it that I have connects to the keyword they gave me, which is sovereign spirits. And then they reminded me of something that I wrote about in the book Cultivating Essence, where I wrote that we are created free, born free, and meant to live free. And so that freedom like aspect that runs very strong in me, it's probably my highest value, or one of several of the highest. And so Andromedans bring that idea of sovereignty, sovereign spirits, but also a free spiritedness. It's really interesting. And also I did not know this. I did not know this at all until they told me this the other night. Like, it's a multidimensionality and like the ability to navigate and travel the dimensions, which was really cool. That is paired with this free spiritedness and this sovereignty. It's just a unique combination of wisdom. And they also are about learning from nature, which I did not know, courage, curiosity. They're quite visionary, and it's about living from your authentic truth. So that is the Andromedan. And then the fifth one is Pleiadian, which I'm very familiar with in terms of observationally, and I'm familiar with the ideas and concepts. But it's so interesting because I've not really, my grandma very much embodied this energy, and many of the people that I have loved embody this energy, which is very interesting to me. But Pleiadians are all about heart-centered, emotional healing, gentleness, love as a strength, teaching and healing, gentleness. And the key word that they gave me, I forgot that, is heart to heart, soul to soul. I don't know if any of you followed me in the very beginning. I used to do, I don't think many of them are still up, but I used to do those monthly heart to heart, soul to soul messages. And that part of the Pleiadian representation on this Reconfiguration Council or team, Reconfiguration team, really does resonate with me because the heart-based leadership. But there's a lot more to what the Pleiadians bring, which quite frankly, I need to learn more of, which is the maintaining the gentleness and not just having an intuition and being connected to it, but again, this is part of the Reconfiguration, leading from that, not just as an add-on, rather leading from that. And love as strength being something that culturally and globally, really, and throughout humanity, we really are being invited to return to now, which is where I'm going to move into. So I'm going to move into talking about this message of protection, which is a big one that this Galactic Reconfiguration team has been sharing with me, both in images and in words, journaling that they've given me to write down, and energetically. So all three of those have been really powerful with this idea of protection. So I may have touched on this briefly with some of the Egypt imagery, but in this message and in my recent interactions, engagement with them, it's been very much about the masculine polarity within males that have that as primary. And so I'm going to touch on some of this. And let me see where to start. Sorry, I keep saying and. and. Love leadership from the healed masculine. I'm going to look at my notes a bit. So a lot of people are talking, of course, about healthy masculinity. We are certainly talking about unhealthy and seeing it. And I think people are searching for this within themselves to, reclaim their own strength and leadership capabilities and power, and to clean that up a bit. And then societally, for sure, we can see the need to do so. So the masculine polarity within each of us individually and in the collective, and then there's also the invitation right now in these 3 years to reclaim, or maybe for the first time claim for some of us, the highest virtue of love in its fullest meaning, sacred love, embodied in human form. And this including and bringing in this concept of protection, which needs to become more than a concept. They keep reminding me, more than a concept. Apparently, this embodiment of protective, fierce protection of ourselves and others and communities and our world and our values is key. It's critical in this 3-year period. It's critical for the liberation of humanity. So let me think about what I want to say next. So in addition to the protection, which I think we all kind of have an idea of what that looks like, there is this idea of guardianship and being guardians. I think there are a lot of men who are actually feeling this, but few that know what to do with it. This is just my sensing of that in various portions of the male population. But I think there's a deep call to return to earth, nature, to be guardians of the earth, essentially to be earth keepers. That does not necessarily mean men suddenly need to be all engaged in the environmental movement or something like that, although that could be. But that the calling, and it does tie back to what I was saying about the ancient civilizations and what they knew, the calling to return to some form of guardianship and protective expression is there, and to draw on their. And when I'm saying there, I also mean I mean all of us, but in particular, there's a call to the males to draw on the power and courage, and then to lead in terms of creating safe spaces and places and opportunities for sacred honoring. There's a lot that the Galactic Reconfiguration team has been talking about in terms of communities. This is not my area of expertise whatsoever. I'm definitely have operated as sort of as a lone wolf in my life, and also, but I love community. I mean, I definitely want to be a part of community and create that, co-create that, collaborate. That is our future, and so I'll do my best to communicate kind of what they're saying there too. So in this 3-year period that we're in it now. There was a plan A, and we are now in plan B. So plan A really ties back to, like for me, the anchor is back to why I actually started this channel, because I was essentially told I had to. And after a year of like recording the videos and then stashing them somewhere where they wouldn't be seen, my own personal team, a spiritual team at that point, it's shifted a lot, but back then it was more I would call them spiritual guides and teachers from beyond, and now it has a little more of this galactic and angelic flavor. But back then they had enough of me doing that. But I was trying to get by with, I'm listening, I'm speaking it, but then I would deliberately kind of hide them. And so eventually I created this channel. A lot of this is not available anymore, but I did speak through those heart-to-heart, soul-to-soul messages monthly, and then through the Messages to the Masculine series that I did back in 2016 and 17 primarily. And a lot of those are not here anymore, but that plan A was, and a lot of other people were doing this as well. And plan A was, as I see it and as they've shown me, for that to be in place now in a stronger way. There are, I just want to be clear, there are many divine masculines or sacred masculines or whatever term you want to give that, masculines who are embodying their full courageous and powerful leadership. There are those individuals and groups of men as well. However, I'm going to touch on in a little bit what has happened. So clearly, societally though, and just there's not that strong, cohesive, powerful example of love leadership and the offering of protection in the way that the highest trajectory, the highest timeline allowed for. So plan B, or like they say it might be more like C or D, but whatever. I mean, I don't know the details of what the breakdown of this, but the gist of it is that we are on a different plan now. So to share a thread from the earlier video I did last night that I won't be sharing, but I'll share just a little thread of that, which is until about a year ago, I actually didn't understand the gravity of the situation. I definitely understood that, I knew that like the little bit that I did had reached a few masculines, but they were in such, and I engaged with several of them, and this is how I know this in terms of just the videos and a little bit of client work and communities or networks I was connected to where I did have these conversations. But until I saw like they were getting it, they wanted it, they were like all in, but something would fall through every time, every single one of them. And in groups, I saw this too. And it was this, I could feel the energy, not see it. I could feel the energy where I observed this. And I could feel something was like off with it, but I never quite understood until about a year ago, I started really seeing this. And then I will say the other thing of, my own personal experiences, like I've definitely seen that in systems and other group dynamics because of what personally I've witnessed. So it's been a growing awareness for me personally in this last year. And I think, I was a little slow to get it. I wish I had gotten it 4 or 5 years ago, but I didn't. And the gravity of the situation is that many of these men who did want to reclaim that and made efforts to do so, their progress was thwarted. I'm going to come back to that in a minute. But let me just say right now, so there was a correction that was being made in terms of, obviously we're like deep in the patriarchy, right, for 2,000 years. And there was beginnings of corrections trying to be made beginning a few decades back and probably back in the 60s first in a powerful way. And then, again and again with various movements, I'm not going to name them all, with various revelations, with various, exposure that has come in terms of what's really been going on in various systems and then in society at large. There's been a corrective going on, which is great. We need that. But as usual, in our correction, things have been lost. And so a part of this is natural, like who are we now kind of thing with men and women. But we're going to focus in this video on the masculine. But there's another part too. And that other part is more of a social engineering and control attempts. But with both of those, wherever it comes from, there's been a compromise to the system of powerful masculine leadership, and a weakening of what some within that population do know, or certainly did know in past generations, of the strength of leading from love, as opposed to dominance and control and all the other things associated with the patriarchy. But so we need to look at what's been lost through the generations, and we need to see that an effort has been made, because I hear a lot of women talking about this in a way that implies that no man on this planet has made any effort whatsoever. And I don't think that's true. I actually think what's happened is there have been a number of individual men and groups of men who have sincerely, and many are leading, don't get me wrong, there are good, healthy role models of masculine in our society, but we're talking here generally. We're making generalizations to help us to see more clearly in this video. So things have been lost through the generations, and there has been a deliberate attempt to sabotage the effort to, or effort's probably not the right word, the desire to reclaim what has been lost. And that has happened in a lot of ways. It's happened through fear tactics, it's happened through shaming, it's happened through the age-old luring and lulling of people to sleep, and also luring them into distraction that happens, for men and women alike, but here we're focusing on men, happens through sex, through power, through greed, through things dangled, right? And why? To dull them to what their soul knows. It's not to say there aren't, I want to be clear here. There's nothing wrong with sex and power and even the pursuit of success, even monetarily and financially and all the worldly success ways. There's nothing wrong with that. As a matter of fact, that's part of this too. It's a really interesting dynamic. I'm not going to go deep into it. I did last night, but I'm not going to go deep into it. So, but there has been, I just want to say, there have been those tactics: fear, shame, distraction, and other deliberate attempts. For what purpose, we might say? Well, because if the strong, powerful men who can lead with that masculine polarity and bring in protection, and again, women do this too. I'm going to touch on that later, so don't get me wrong, but we're focusing on the male aspect here. If they are not able to do that, then it's much easier for those people currently holding on to a limited definition that they would impose upon us all of power, to remain and to keep hold of their power, essentially. And all of these tactics that are very subtle, by and large, there are some obvious ones, but a lot of them are very subtle. And a lot of them, it's hard to discern where it's coming from. And again, I personally believe it's on planet and off planet. And there's been just this dulling to what their soul knows, or a squashing of the attempts to grow, to reclaim that and live from it. And there also has been, I've heard a number of people talk about this from, just other YouTube channels and things. And I don't know specifically if I buy into this completely, but I do think in some cases it definitely has happened. There has been a deliberate elimination of those who have made steps toward really speaking to that powerfully to the masses. And there have been the effects of all of this on men have been quite dramatic and severe. And again, I have to admit, I did not see the level of severity until, relatively recently, about a year ago. And I wish I had seen it sooner. And there are two generations, multiple generations, two groups. There are those of us, more my age, I'm 61, from older generations, men from older generations that actually do remember that strong male leadership. And some of them still, again, embody it. but there's been a siphoning off and a weakening of that. So there are older generations who remember and have seen that example. And there are younger generations, particularly like, I would say a little bit Gen X, but definitely millennials and then younger, who actually did not have the same exposure to those strong role models, male leadership in society. And only a portion of that, the younger generations who actually had it in their formative years in their homes, and that's due to a lot of things, to divorce and different ways of moving through the world that we have now with men and women and the dynamics there. And again, I am not making any argument that we should return to one particular expression at all. I'm just talking about what has happened. In the earlier videos, I also I actually went quite deep into systems. I'm not going to do that here, but let me name a few of the systems where you can see that there has been this energetic pattern that has compromised strong male leadership, and where there's been even a battle within some of these systems, not all, but some of these systems, a battle between the more power and domination control and the healthier masculine power dynamic, which is just as strong. But there's been, within some of the systems, the direct battle between those two energies. And in other systems, there's been a default due to other outside energies, a default to or a waning of the healthy masculine. So some of the systems, just to name them, would be government, sports and entertainment, healthcare and wellness, technology, banking, the justice system, and law enforcement. That's just a few. There's many others. Within each one of these systems, there have been these energetic patterns. And then again, some developed naturally due to the actions of key players or influencers in those industries, and also due to the shift in lifestyle or ways of moving through the world with participants within those systems. There have been other systems in which the energetic patterns at play have been deliberately co-opted, or there has been interference. I believe that's coming from two places, which I've mentioned already. One is, so let's talk about first the people. One is within the systems, the circles, the agency, the organization. Some of the people or individuals within those systems have their own motives for using other people in the system, and or for recruiting or bringing people into the system, whatever the system or organization may be. And because of these individual or groups within the larger system making power grabs and or trying to sway things one way or the other, that's where these patterns sometimes get introduced, and they begin to create a whole tunnel pathway that is susceptible to deception. And sometimes those people themselves are bringing in the deception knowingly, and sometimes it's not that. But because of that portal that's opened into the system, that then allows for other energies to enter into the system. And so there's this disruption that's running quietly within all these systems, and it manifests differently in all the systems. Some of us can see that in some of the major systems. It's become quite obvious. I also discussed last night, in terms of entertainment, I also discussed sports industry. But I'm not going to go into all of that. But the ways that this occurs is then once those patterns are introduced, whether deliberately or just by accident, because the pathway was left open, because there was not proper protection for these systems, and because of that, things became compromised and it begins to run amok. It takes over. These energetic patterns that are more negative take over. And in particular here, we are, remember, talking about, this, the deliberate attack on healthy, courageous leadership, love leadership from the masculine polarity. And because this happens, some of where that would otherwise be present, the healthy masculine leadership, it becomes slightly twisted and misshapen. And so where there are places where that has, the intention was for there to be that leadership, protection, sacred space created, it has been compromised. So that's the one, on the one hand, it's coming from within the system itself because of the people in the system and because these gateways or portals or pathways have been opened and there has not been correct protection. The second thing is, I do believe, and I've been shown, by the Reconfiguration team, that there have been, in some cases, not in all those systems, and not in the same ways, but there have been interfering forces, intervention from outside that is off planet. And perhaps those forces have been working with other people on Earth. I'm not going to name those, but you can use your imagination there. I did go into that. I think that's part of why I was not meant to share the video as I recorded it last night. But the broad strokes is how an illusion has been created that then traps the masses, all of us, in a sort of delusion. And the illusions that are cast coming from these two places within the system, the people and external energies, on planet and off planet, these illusions that are created for whatever purposes they are, and they're created through manipulation of individuals and groups and the system itself and the energetic patterns. So when this manipulation happens, there's an illusion created, a cast, and literally all of us are drawn into like this mass delusion because it begins to be propped up and presented, sometimes deliberately and sometimes sheerly, that's not a word, sometimes simply because other people are preoccupied elsewhere. Their attention is elsewhere. And we all start buying into this sort of like, it's like a state of mild delusion, but we don't even know we're in it, sort of. And we call it reality and we just accept the way it is. We're all buying into it. And one of the things that's been very clear to me from across the board, from all these different systems and networks, is how there has been a significant loss to society of this sacred masculine. If you think about the social engineering aspect and social media, and you think about other kinds of influences that are deliberately broadcast to us through television, movies, entertainment, at events, at other major points of focus or attention for us, and sometimes perhaps through government channels where it's a deliberate misinformation campaign. If you think about all of that and you just step back and take a look, we can see how this has significantly compromised, in particular, strong males. And I am beginning to believe that it is true, that there has been a deliberate attempt to destabilize masculine power anywhere it has appeared, to include within those of us who are female or who lead with a feminine polarity. There's still been that attempt to derail it. I myself have definitely experienced this. I'm going to speak to that separately, my personal view of that. But there's also been this attempt to suppress open and honest, heart-based masculinity. And again, it's been so interesting to see that in a very dramatic way in the last year. It's almost as if it's disappeared, like just the archetype of the strong warrior but healthy masculine leadership. It's almost like it's literally almost disappeared. but there's a longing for it like never before. And now is the time, this next 3 years, for us to reclaim that. And there are very beautiful, healed men and masculines. There are. But if you just step back and look at society as a whole, we can see it. Like, no wonder we're lacking something right now. No wonder men are confused. Number one, they've been targeted by things that, perhaps they're easy marks for on the whole, if they have not healed. And in the same way that women are, or the easy marks for other sorts of distractions. And also it's become, there's a societal pressure and there's very mixed messages at play in society with regard to male leadership and what that even looks like. And then with technology, you bring that in, and that changes a lot. So we're going to go through a time of great change here in the next 3 years, and this is very critical. The idea of protection being the main thing I'm talking about, but this masculine leadership component is very critical for each of us within ourselves and then in society. All right, so this is why the Galactic Reconfiguration team is coming in for us, to help us rebalance all of this, to help us reclaim the sacred masculine and the highest aspects of love and protection held by that masculine polarity within each one of us. And so this means self-protection. It means the protection of loved ones. It means the protection of community. It means the protection of our values. It means protection of higher ideals, which I believe is our sacred contract with one another. And the galactic messages have been very strongly oriented toward this idea of a particular group of individuals and partners and groups within society leading this in the next 3 years. I don't know exactly who it is. It's sort of like this loose federation of different types of individuals and group who have embodied the sacred masculine and who are working to do so more diligently. So there is a group of individuals meant to lead this and to be the models of true protection. I will speak more to that as I'm given more to share. So to wrap up this video, next steps. The future really looks bright if we can successfully navigate this, if we can see the disruption and attempts to derail and move through reclaiming those threads of strength, of sacred protection, and leadership. And I believe that, it will materialize in our reality with the help, with our acceptance of the support that we do have from these star lineages and reclaiming their wisdom. But again, it remains to be seen how it plays out. So we're in a transition period, an adjustment period, as they've called it. So what can we do? We can, number one, heal your inner masculine, show up for yourself and others with love and protection. Really start to tune into that day by day. How am I doing? Am I loving myself? Am I protecting myself? Am I being courageous? Am I taking care? Am I being a good steward of what's been entrusted to me? Am I building bridges of community? And then we need to support one another in doing this same thing. And we need to support all genders in the reclamation of the sacred masculine. We need to support men as well. And we need to hold within ourselves and for all of us in society the highest ideal of the sacred divine masculine, and to insist that it have a seat at the table, because in some cases that's what's happened. And I think that there has been some nefarious activity that has deliberately tried to usurp that and to essentially deceive powerful masculines into believing that they need to take it and put it over here in whatever, this powerful group or that powerful group, and have okay, I'm not going to go into that, but you get the idea. And I did speak to that in the video last night. And so we have to hold the vision. We have to say, no, we're not going to forfeit that highest, purest ideal. Now, by the way, this does not mean there can't be the little bro groups that do their, their power and domination thing. They can. But we need to understand, all of us individually and collectively, that there's something at stake here, and that we need to support one another into a fuller expression of who we are. Because, if we don't, what will happen is those pockets where true masculinity is driven into the shadow then, and those pockets, not all individuals within these groups, but some, they can turn predatory, and they can express narcissistic tendencies, which, by the way, all of us have those tendencies, but it can become very quickly, it can become quite detrimental to our collective future, and to, again, the liberation of humanity, and to the true full expression of humanity, and it can damage all of us, because it can besides just pure narcissism and the typical male power trip kind of thing, it can become covert. It can be driven underground. It can, there's like a lot of, spiritual narcissism at play as well, and a lot of other more subtle forms of these types of energies. And it becomes so corrosive, and confused that it just creates a really difficult situation for all of us, not to mention portions of the population that are significantly harmed by that. Ultimately, even if those individuals aren't doing the harm, it supports that. So, okay, so yes, there is strength. There are strong masculines that are tapped into their growth, and who understand that there are wounded aspects that are still being, brought forth. What we don't bring forth, will destroy us. And so we have to see the wounded aspects. And I know we're all, well, I'll speak for myself. Many of us are sick of seeing it, but there's more. There's a lot more. What we have seen is only the tip of the proverbial iceberg, and we have to see it. We have to see it and then move to create something. We have to see it and take action. See it, take action. See it, take action. We have to lead our lives with love and courage. And we have to say, no, that is not who I will be. That is not who we will be. And we have to notice when we're being energetically lured in or enticed in some manner. And it can be all kinds of ways. And we have to also guard against just flipping the script. We don't want to create a matriarchal society where men have no power. That is not what we want. Let's think about this. Let's be wise. Let's learn from the star lineages, and let's incorporate all of this. And let's realize too where dependencies have been created. And here I'm speaking to all different groups in society, men and women, but all types of dependencies that have been created. So, by the way, that is the point at which, when I was talking about that particular aspect in the systems, that's the point at which the very odd things happened. Yeah. Okay. I think I'm going to wrap this one. I've spoken a long time, so I hope this was helpful, and I'm going to leave it there. So meet your reconfiguration team. They're here for us. These star lineages are here to help us, and they will lead us, and I'm sure they'll give me more to speak about with regard to the particular energies that they bring forward. Revisit the first part of this video if you want to know that. And then this is all about this period. This 3-year period is all about the restoration of protection and love leadership by healing the masculine polarity and leading powerfully through this time of change. Thanks.